More on my favourite drink later. Imagine visiting London's Royal Albert Hall and hearing the sound of sumo wrestlers thundering across a clay dohyo. What a sight! But could you describe sumo, S-U-M-O, in an English conversation? Listen to this podcast today and you'll pick up words like venue and tournament. So that if you're talking with friends in English about events you've been to, those words will feel natural and easy to use. Listen to today's podcast and you'll be inspired by unusual stories. You'll learn about forgiveness in everyday English. That's repairing harm through understanding. And you'll pick up some really good health information about coffee. This interesting mix helps you get better learning results from your English lessons, practicing naturally with up-to-the-minute news and ideas from Adept English, things that would interest you anyway. And today, after each story, I'll list the words that you may have learned from that story, words that may be new to you. Listen out for that. Sumo comes to the UK. That's S-U-M-O. So this is entertainment news. Most of us love Japanese culture. That means things from Japan. J-A-P-A-N in English. Whether it's anime, manga, cherry blossom, or the zen of Japanese gardens. Most of us are interested in Japan. And who doesn't like sushi? S-U-S-H-I. But what about sumo wrestling? Well, it's coming to the UK. The Grand Sumo Tournament is happening this year at the Royal Albert Hall. The Royal Albert Hall is a world-famous venue. That's V-E-N-U-E, with its big round dome. A venue is any place that people come together, usually for something special. You might ask, what's the venue? Where is it held, in other words? So the Royal Albert Hall is a world-famous venue. And sumo, that is the national sport of Japan. But it's also a mix of tradition and discipline and rituals that come from the Japanese Shinto religion. That's Shinto, S-H-I-N-T-O in English. Some of these rituals, parts of sumo, go back 1,000 years. They're very old. And the Grand Sumo Tournament is taking place outside of Japan for only the second time. A tournament, T-O-U-R-N-A-M-E-N-T, means a competition. So the Grand Sumo Tournament has been held in London, 15th to 19th of October. Only once before outside of Japan. Where was it held last? 1999, again in the Royal Albert Hall. Sumo has seen a massive rise in popularity amongst international fans in recent years. It's got more popular, in other words. And if you missed it this time, sumo is also going to Paris in 2026. A sumo fighter is called an ikishi, or R-I-K-I-S-H-I in English. And there are only around 600 rikishi in professional sumo, and most of them are Japanese. But there are sumos from Estonia, Ukraine, and Mongolia. And earlier this year, a 15-year-old boy from Hull in the UK called Nicholas went to train in Japan as a sumo wrestler. He's only the second of 2 Britons who have ever achieved that, being invited to train in one of the sumo academies in Japan. In these sumo academies, training schools if you like, the rikishi live together, train together, eat together, and every aspect of their lives is dedicated to sumo. Rikishi gain weight to maximize their power in the ring, eating around 10,000 calories in one meal. Despite their massive size, sumos are very flexible, agile, that's A-G-I-L-E, and have huge muscle power. What do they eat? Well, often a very rich stew. That's stew, and it's called shankunabe. It's full of meat and protein and lots of vegetables. 6 or 7 bowls at a time of shankunabe. So sumo is going to be a real spectacle. And the Royal Albert Hall had to make changes to accommodate the Grand Sumo tournament, reinforcing toilets and chairs to bear the weight of the rikishi or sumo wrestlers. And of course they needed a special clay ring or dohyo. That's dohyo in English. Vocabulary from this story: sumo, rikishi, shankunabe, and dohyo are all Japanese words, now in the English language too, but you've also heard tournament, venue, competition, and words like ritual, tradition, and spectacle. That's some great vocabulary for you. I get a lot of feedback that people find my voice clear and reassuring. That's nice to hear. But one of the things to do when building your listening skills, practice with other English voices too. It helps everyday conversation feel more natural. For that, our course, Activate Your Listening, is very helpful. In that course, you'll hear other native English speakers, not just me. People who've done the course say it makes a real difference. Go to adeptenglish.com to find out more. Our second story today is on the power of human connection and the power of forgiveness. Forgiveness, forgiveness, that means letting go of anger when someone has hurt you, letting go of negativity when someone has done you harm. So a play at the Old Vic Theatre in London is running. It's called Punch, Punch, and it's based on a true story. A play, play in this context, well, that's what happens at a theatre. Think of William Shakespeare. And a punch, that's when you hit someone in a fight. That's a punch. So this play and this true story follows a young man called Jacob Dunn, who, on a night out on drink and drugs in 2011, got into a fight and accidentally killed another young man with a single punch, one hit. The young man who died was James Hodgkinson, and you can imagine his parents, their feelings of grief and loss. Jacob Dunn, who threw the punch, as we say in English, went to prison for 14 months for his crime. That's prison, prison, and crime, crime. The thing he'd done wrong is his crime. What happened after prison? Well, Jacob Dunn started a process of turning his life around, changing himself and his life for the better. How did Jacob Dunn do this? Well, this is the interesting part of the story. He stopped the alcohol and the drugs, but also Jacob Dunn had a meeting with James Hodgkinson's parents, his mum and dad. James's mother, Joan, accepted that Dunn's action had just been a stupid mistake. The two young men didn't even know each other. Other meetings took place, and it was through the support of James Hodgkinson's parents that Jacob Dunn made all kinds of changes in his life, including doing a degree in criminology. He got a first. That's the highest mark you can get. And Jacob Dunn also wrote a book called Right from Wrong about his experience. And now, with the help of James Hodgkinson's mother, now called Joan Scourfield, Jacob Dunn runs a programme of education and community work. Jacob and Joan together teach young men about the dangers and risks of street violence. Violence means actions that are intended to hurt other people or damage property. That's violence. So as you might imagine, this theatre play is very powerful. People who've seen it are very moved by it. It makes people think. And this idea of people who have committed crimes, meeting people affected by the crime is a very powerful one, especially where there is forgiveness, like in this story. So here you learned words like forgiveness, punch, prison, crime. So time for the health surprise. Can drinking coffee every morning really boost your health? Cheers to you. A big new study led by researchers at Tulane University in America looked at the data for over 40,000 Americans and recorded their coffee drinking habits over 10 years. That's a long time for a study. They found that regular coffee drinkers had lower risks of certain health issues. They were less likely to get heart disease, problems with their hearts, in other words. But here's the interesting bit. People who drank coffee in the morning had a 16% lower risk of dying from any cause compared with people in the study who didn't drink coffee at all. And morning coffee drinkers had a 31% lower risk of dying from heart problems. Wow. 31% is a big difference. What's going on? Well, the natural substances in coffee, not just the caffeine, they seem to protect the body over time, and they're very good for us. Why does it matter when you drink your coffee? 2 reasons. Coffee in the afternoon and evening disrupts your sleep. And even if it doesn't stop you sleeping, it means your sleep is less good quality. And it seems so important that we get good sleep that effect appears to cancel out the benefits if you drink coffee all day. The negative effect on your sleep is bigger than the positive effect of the substances in coffee, in other words. So again, morning coffee drinkers, 31% less risk of dying from heart disease compared to non-coffee drinkers and compared to people who drink coffee all day. So that's partly down to sleep, but the second reason, well, apparently coffee's benefits come from substances in it which have an anti-inflammatory effect. Inflammation in the body, INFLAMMINATION, is very bad news for our health. And it appears that there's a daily rhythm, a daily pattern. Inflammation is highest in the morning. So it seems that drinking your coffee when inflammation is at its highest has the most beneficial effect, does you the most good, in other words. So coffee in the morning lessens your risk of dying from a heart condition by 31%. Cheers! If you enjoyed these good news stories, subscribe for episodes like our podcast 800 or restart to listen again.